accomplice.
Bomber clad shoot up on fire, man.
It's a top, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.
I think that's enough of that, guys. That's enough of that. Let's just get right into it. All right. Let's get right into it. This is Maestro, and I'm back home in New York City after a long day of work teaching middle school kids PE. And, you know, usually I go live for punchlines or for MANO a MANO. Usually go live Sunday. I didn't go live this Sunday because I was in Las Vegas, Nevada for the big fight, the Devin Haney Vasily Lomachenko fight, live at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. And we're going to get into this because it's been pretty controversial. People are calling it a robbery. Which, by the way, I think is now probably officially the most overused word, at least in the English language, when it comes to boxing, by boxing fans. I personally don't think this fight was a robbery. I personally think that this was a close fight. I personally think that Devin Haney won the fight 7 rounds to 5. I personally think that I wouldn't have argued with a draw. I wouldn't have even argued had it slightly been gone towards Loma. That's my honest opinion. Now, for a lot of the people that want to say this is a robbery, I'm going to ask you this. Did you score the fight? Yes or no? Did you score the fight? Yes or no? Don't tell me, oh, you know, yeah, I gave this round to Haney and that round to Loma, and at the end of the day, I felt that Loma won. All right? I'm getting a call here that I need to disconnect from. All right, I don't want to hear that as I put that on mute. Did you score the fight? Because scoring a fight, believe it or not, isn't just watching the fight and writing into your phone, this person won that round, this person won that round. You score a fight, there should be a rubric that you're using. What are you scoring? How are you scoring? What are you weighing heavily? What are you weighing more lightly? So did you score the fight? Honestly, I think a lot of you will probably have to admit that you didn't. So that's number one. Now, let's say you want to say, yes, Maestro, I did score the fight, Maestro. Okay. Where did you score the fight? Were you at a bar? Were you at home? Were you at your friend's house? Were there people around? Was there music playing? Were you listening to commentary? Were you drinking? Were you using your phone? In other words, what were the conditions under which you were scoring the fight? I got to be honest. I think that if you're going to be honest with yourselves and honest in the chat, you're probably going to admit that at least one, if not more, of those factors were at play. That's probably going to be the case. You probably were at home. You probably were watching it with commentary. By the way, commentary that missed a lot of stuff that Devin Haney was doing. You probably were watching it with multiple camera angles that were being edited to show things, right, from a certain lens. And I'm not saying that, the network or the promoter was doing things out of bias, but between rounds, they're very limited in what they can show and how much they can show. And in a jam-packed MGM Grand Arena where people are booing Haney and people are literally screaming for everything that Loma does, human bias is going to lead people to edit in things that elicited a lot of crowd noise. All right? So, look, I watched the fight live. I was at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. But I'll be honest with you, the conditions under which I watched the fight live were not ideal. All right? I was amongst the fans because they had multiple media sections. My media section was one amongst the fans, surrounded by fans that were drinking, that were making a lot of noise. I had my phone out. I was sharing video that I had taken. I was uploading video. I might have missed things. I might have been influenced. So whatever I felt on the night had its own level of bias, had its own level of, how should I call it? Well, things of affect, things that affected it, right? So I actually, when I got back home on Sunday after a red-eye flight with a layover in Dallas, I actually sat down and rewatched the fight. All right, and when I sat down and rewatched the fight, I scored it for Haney. Having said that, there were a lot of swing rounds that could have gone to Loma. All right, and what I want to say is this, right? Because, you got a lot of people out there complaining, Jean-Claude Van Damme complained. Nelly of all, I had a friend send me a video of Nelly. Like, first of all, when has Nelly ever been relevant in the last 20 years? And why should I care about Nelly's opinion about boxing? But okay, Nelly thought it was a robbery. Nelly's never going to pay money again, right? Nelly apparently thinks that it was a robbery. Guys, I got to explain something. And a lot of people that watch this channel, I know I don't got to explain this to Nando, for one. All right, I know I don't have to explain this for Hamed, two. All right. I probably don't have to explain it to Chicano either. Salute, Chicano, and thank you so much for the super chat, brother. I really appreciate that. I do. All right, so he says, damn, Maestro, calling us out. I'll be honest, I was 4 beers in. Yeah, of course you were. People enjoy boxing with alcoholic beverages. It's normal. That's what we do. Well, not necessarily me, but that's what a lot of people do, right? They enjoy boxing with their alcoholic beverage of choice, whether that's tequila, whether that's beer, whether that's whatever. Not ideal for scoring a fight, okay? But I look at elite championship boxing the way I look at elite sports competitions in other sports. So for instance, right, this is a undisputed championship fight, meaning the two guys are elite, meaning that it should be a close fight. All right, this isn't a regular season NBA game. This is game 7 of the NBA Finals. And very rarely are there blowouts in game 7s of NBA championship series. Right? So boxing is no different. At this level, like, I would expect there to be a close fight. I would expect there to be debate about who won a round. I would expect there to be differences of opinion, but that doesn't mean that we got to go all the way to robbery. We got to go all the way to this person or that person is scoring the fight this way because of a bias, because they're black and they wanted the black guy to win, which is a narrative that I saw today. So I'm going to share something really quick, and then we're going to continue the discussion. Then I'm going to open up for people that want to talk about this with me, because this is a Maestro Square Gardens. It's not a punchline, so I do want to share the floor with people. But I want to also have a look at this. So this I uploaded onto my YouTube page, all right? And let's have a look, and I'm going to read the comments after. What I see there is a closely contested fight, right? And Loma got robbed. Please, Maestro, I love you, bro, because you are always fair, but this time you're wrong, and I'm sorry you are the one that is crazy for thinking this is fucking close. Loma won. Loma won this fight. The judges took it from him. Hey, man, Loma win this match. And then you got one guy that says, I think Haney pulled it off, but I'm no expert. There's professional boxers who had Loma winning, people who actually was at the fight. Okay, great. First of all, professional boxers are like everybody else. They have their biases, they have their friendships, they have their allegiances. All right. They have their opinions. All right. It's always funny to me that now all of a sudden people want to appeal to the authority of other professional fighters when it suits them. But when it doesn't suit them, they don't necessarily want to do that. So, look, 7-5 Haney, that's how I had it. I don't think it was a robbery. It could have been a draw. It could have gone 7-5 Loma. I had at least 4 swing rounds on my scorecards. And that's how I had it, guys. And you know what? If you had it differently, guess what? That's boxing. It's a subjectively scored sport. But I want to know something. If you scored the fight, what was your rubric? If you scored the fight, what was your criteria? If you scored the fight, what environment did you score the fight in? It's that simple. Those are my questions for everybody. And I'm opening up the lines. If anybody wants to talk about this and give their opinion, I'm all ears. All ears. All right, as I go through the chat. So Centurion says, brother, hell nah, Haney won the fight. Fight Fan Live TV. Big ups, my brother Maestro. Thank you so much. Deluxe recording. Load was robbed. Tony Marshall official. Big up, lit show tonight, people. Yeah, I agree with that, obviously. Let me bring on Electro Jed. Electro Jed, good to see you again. Last time I saw you was where, sir?
Right there.
Right there where?
Oh, we were at the MGM Grand, and we were at we were actually in front of the arena. What was that little place
in front of the entrance of the Grand Garden Arena on the of the MGM Grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't too sure because I had called you out, but then I didn't notice you had the headset. I was like,
yeah, I had my headphones.
Dude, I'm going to say you hit the nail on the head when you were making a comment earlier, because the last time I was in a boxing match, the last time I was live at a boxing match was in 1976, Shea Stadium, Ali versus Norton. But my stepdad bought the tickets. I was more excited about being with my stepdad than at the boxing match. I'm 11 years old. This was different. I went out of the way. You met my wife. I took my wife for the first time. We went out and we got to go see this fight. This was a historic fight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had made you were asking questions. What were you doing when you watched the fight? Was there alcohol involved? Was this involved? Was that? Look, we were there. I wasn't drinking at all. My wife wasn't drinking at all. I tried to be as objective a judge as possible. Now I personally had it 8-4 Loma, but I could have a bias, so I need to see the fight again. I haven't seen the fight again yet. I'm going to. But if I had it 8-4, that's still a close fight. People don't seem to understand that. Oh, but that's a robbery. No, that's 8-4 is still a close fight. That fight, guys, if you don't understand it, that you couldn't get any closer as far as fights goes than that one. And yeah, there's going to be controversy. Do I think there was a robbery? I'm not going to say robbery. I'm going to say I'm disappointed in the decisions. One of those judges was definitely off, in my opinion, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see the Moretti scorecard. I don't see that. But as is typically the case, Electra Jed, people focus on the scorecard that deviated from the mean. People focus on the scorecard that, you know, is very different than the other two scorecards, which I actually thought were fair scorecards.
Those other two scorecards, I really couldn't argue one way or the other with it. You know, and mind you, I was up in the nosebleed poor man section. So
there you go. And one thing I want to say,
that is what it is.
One thing I want to say too before we bring on Checkmate Boxing and Ignacio Ortiz, otherwise commonly known as Nacho, is that it was a very pro Loma crowd, extremely pro Loma, and pretty much everything that Loma did, the arena went crazy. The same cannot be said the other way around for Haney. And I think that becomes even more important when you focus on the fact that a lot of Haney's work that people that felt that he did well were focused on in giving him rounds was the body attack, which oftentimes doesn't get the same level of, I'd say, praise as headshots. But let's bring people on. We got Hamed here. We've got Philly Drew also here. But let's hear from Nacho first. Nacho, go for it, fam.
Hey, Maestro, what's going on? So I'm kind of in agreement with Jed. I was watching that fight, and I wasn't listening to the commentary. And to be honest, like having watched it live and then gone back yesterday and rewatched it again, I'm still having a tough time. Even if you give Haney every benefit of a doubt, as far as, you know, certain rounds that people are claiming are swing rounds, I'm still not seeing him having won anywhere near 6, 7 rounds or even 8 rounds, like some people are talking about. So this idea that Haney fans have that he won that fight convincingly is nonsense. He did not win that fight convincingly. To me, you can make the case Loma won that fight convincingly a lot more than you can Haney. My biggest issue with the Haney fans is they're literally relying on the whole idea of he was landing body shots, and that was his most effective shot that he landed all night. My issue with it, though, Maestro, is normally if a guy is landing body shots, that usually means that you're taking the legs away from your opponent. You're weakening him as the fight goes along. And then eventually as the fight goes along deeper into the fight, you either end up stopping him or you end up, weakening him to the point where he's not effective anymore. Haney didn't do any of that. Loma, for the most part, was able to take his body shots and keep coming. And that's my issue with their argument. His body work was not that effective. So if you're going to sit there and rely on that as saying that's the reason why you think he won, How can you sit there and say that when the other fighter was never weakened, he kept coming, and he was the fresher fighter at the end of the fight?
Let's unpack that for a second, because you just went through your rubric, essentially. Your rubric includes weakening your opponent. Mine doesn't. When I look at the unified rules of boxing, it's effective punching. It doesn't say you have to weaken your opponent or hurt your opponent. I mean, that's fine for you as a fan to give a round to a fighter who was able to do that, or say that a guy doesn't win a round because he wasn't able to weaken or hurt his opponent. But weakening and hurting your opponent are not part of my rubric. If you land a shot to the body, whether or not it has the effect of Tanks against Ryan, or whether or not it has the effects of Haney against Loma, it's still a clean scoring blow. And it can win you.
But then my issue, okay, but my issue with that then is, how can it be effective if it's not doing what the intent is meant? Like, effective means that you're able to slow the other person down, that you're able to really take something out of them. So how is it effective if the other fighter keeps coming and is still fresh at the end of the fight? That's my only issue with your argument.
Can I add, the thing with this though is clean punching. And clean punching to the body, nowhere does it say you get more points for clean punching to the head than the body. So I think that's where the first 6-8 rounds were hard to score. I got no problem if someone had Loma winning or a draw, but I just don't see the robbery talk. Like, I think you can make an argument for either guy winning, but I thought Haney definitely landed the better body shots early on, and I think Loma kind of abandoned the body. Later on, he had more success to the head, but I think that's where I thought he left it to interpretation by also not going for it in the 12th round. I think that's what I think lost him the fight.
Well,
at least...
look, also, Ahmed, just to double down on that, effective doesn't mean you have to, send somebody to the floor. Effective means you essentially land a clean punch, and you're scoring in amateur boxing, be scoring a point, but in professional boxing, it just means a scoring blow that if you tabulate enough of these, you're winning the round because you've landed more punches than your opponent. So again, we got to get down into the rubric that people are using to score a fight. And the problem that I find, especially amongst a lot of boxing fans, is everybody has a different rubric. For one person, it's the person that lands more. Another person's the person that lands more to the head. Another person, it's the person who hurt the other person more. But oftentimes I even get into debates with people about whether or not people actually hurt the opponent. For instance, I was arguing with people about whether Anthony Yard hurt Artur Beterbiev. I don't think he is, but that's because these are subjective. What shouldn't be subjective is whether or not a punch lands or not. And I score fights based on clean landed punches. It's as simple as that. Let's bring on Philly, and then I'm going to go right to my man, Joe Habib. Go for it, Joe. I'm sorry, Philly.
I had Loma winning. Like, I watched the fight 5 times. The first time, it was live. I was with a couple of Haney fans and everything. Second time, watched it with no commentary. I had it 9-3 Loma. I really did. I really thought the more effect, if you look at it, this is how I score boxing fights. Ring generalship, effective punching, punch output. Like, that's how I scored the fight and everything. I thought Loma, ring generalship was on point. I thought he was pushing the bigger man all night back. I thought he was landing. I thought Haney's effective rounds were 5-8, were 5-8 and 12. I think he had a constant body attack. And then the second round, he had a constant body attack because I had that as a swing round. And which my last time I watched it, which was today, because I watched it twice. The first time, I wanted to rescore it myself. Then the second time for film study, for when I go live, I kind of gave Haney that second round because it was a swing round. It could have went either way. And I was like, you could argue Haney won that round. You could argue Loma won that round. But after I watched the fight 5 times, I could not give Devin Haney no more than 4 rounds in that fight. I thought Loma baited him into some good combinations, landed. He walked into 2 uppercuts in one combination. I really thought the fight was a better fight than people thought it was going to be and everything, with 2 technicians and everything. But I really thought Loma won the fight clearly. And I don't think we're getting a rematch. I heard he signed with Top Rank on a 2-fight extension fight. I don't know how true that is. But I just don't see him after this fight being able to go up to 140 and being a force at 140, because I don't think the power is going to come up with him.
Okay, that's a point. Well, before I get to Joe, I just want to show this. This is some video I took on the night of the weigh-in, and I personally think that it caused the crowd to be very anti-Haney. Here we go, and I want your guys' opinion on whether or not you think this turned people against Haney at all. Here. All right, so there you have it. The shove, it was all over the place. I met fans in the arena who literally told me that they didn't like Haney because of that shove. And I got to be honest, and Electrojet, you could either agree with me or disagree with me. You were there live as well. I felt it was a very pro-Loma crowd, and I felt the crowd literally went nuts anytime Loma did anything. Electrojet, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I can't disagree with that. I was in a section where I would say 60% of the crowd was Haney. And by the end of the fight, this is no lie, it was weird watching, but by the end of the fight, the entire section was rooting Loma. By the end of the fight, that I thought it was like that's some movie shit going on right there. Yeah. You know, it's like, but I saw it was I was there. It was your 60-40. It was Haney crowd. I was in G section. That was a Haney side, and bam! All of a sudden, you got people yelling Loma's name from around round 8 on. It was like everybody was screaming Loma, even the steadfast, who I thought were hardcore Haney fans. So I don't disagree with that. That I do think that was a Loma crowd, man, or a very easily influenced crowd, depending on what's going on.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, if my section could be converted over that quickly, then I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and we also had all of the shoulder programming talking about the war in Ukraine. I mean, look, he was a very sympathetic character, very sympathetic combatant going into this fight. A guy, an underdog, a guy who'd been in a military conflict, a guy who had lost his titles and was trying to get them back. But I saw a close fight. I had it 7-5 Haney. There was a number of swing rounds I think you could have given Loma if you want to. I wouldn't have complained with a draw. I wouldn't have complained with 7-5. And what's interesting is Bradley has backtracked on this now and is now essentially saying exactly what I said yesterday when I posted my short video clip, asking people what they were thinking of the fight and saying that I thought it was a close fight and that people calling it a robbery were literally going crazy. Joe Habib, thank you for joining me, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Again, I'm not trying to jump on Nacho. I noticed he jumped off when he saw me pop on here. I mean, I wasn't going to go at him, but he gave you half of a portion of the scoring criteria. He said, how is that effective? It's called clean and effective. It's not just called effective. It's called clean and effective. And if a shot lands clean and you see a person's body shudder, when you're landing a shot, and the whole fist lands, right? And it's clean. And the body is making an indent in the flesh. That's a clean shot. right? When you look at those shots early that Loma was landing, right, in the first half of the fight, it's the same thing with the Pacquiao-Bradley fight. Like, I thought people were getting too caught up in the flash, right? And Bradley, like, I was watching the fight, and Bradley's like, oh, 4-punch combination. And during that combination, I heard Ward say, Tim, none of those landed. You know, maybe, and then with certain times when maybe 1 or 2 would land, and just, you know, it looked like it was more than it was because the punches were grazing a lot of times, but Haney's body shots early on were landing like this. Now, whether or not they're effective or not, okay, that's fine. I'm sure no punch is soft, like in terms, all punches hurt to some degree, right? And, you know,
well, let me.
I don't know if we can say at the end of the fight that just like Loma wasn't tired and Haney wasn't, like, they were both kind of tired at the end. They just went through a grueling fight. I don't think one person was more tired than the other, from my own impression. Now again,
they were both.
Loma had a good 10th and 11th round. I get that, but
he bounced back well in
how do you know? Like, when you say something like, well, later in the fight, he wasn't slowing down. But you can't score around thinking about the future of a guy slowing down. Like that shows to me that, did you score each round individually, or did you wait till the end of the fight? Like, a lot of people did not score this fight. A lot of people did not score this fight. They watched it. A lot of it was groupthink. Philly Drew, I know he scored it. I respect him. I'm not going to call out him or question him. He watched it. He had his opinion. That's fine. I had literally someone call into the show yesterday and said that was a robbery. But he started off his call with, I didn't score it. And now when you look at the polls now, early on when you looked at the polls, it was like 75-25. There was a lot of groupthink going on. And there was a lot of people that didn't really score the fight. I think a lot of people sat down and actually watched the fight and scored it. And now it's like more like 60-40 now.
No,
like, I'm looking at polls now. I'm going to let you jump right in, Haney. Excuse me, Haney.
Okay.
I'm looking at polls now, right? And, you know, it's like 60-40 now instead of 70-25 because the groupthink has worn off, right? And now people actually are scoring the fight. So
that's true.
How are you going to sit there and say, well, proof that the punches weren't effective because he wasn't tired later in the fight?
Reverse scoring. That's reverse scoring.
You can't think of all those things when you're scoring a fight. I'm looking at punches landing clean. The whole fist landed on the flesh, and the flesh shuddered, and there was redness on the body. Those body shots, in my opinion, were much more cleaner than those early headshots from Loma. Now, as the fight wore on, 9, 10, 11, yeah, that left hand was coming in with fire. It was landing clean, but that wasn't the case. I didn't think Loma started really doing like exceptional work and really started to pour it on until the 8th round. This was similar to me to the Teofimo fight. Not as much, but it was similar in that fact that he did start somewhat slow. So you can't sit there and say, oh, well, these weren't effective. I don't think these are hurting Loma. Unless you're Professor X and you have psionic powers where you can go in someone's body and feel what they're feeling, you can't say that those punches aren't like, they're not hurting. Now, again, they're probably not hurting as much as Tank's punches would be hurting. We know that Devin's not a monstrous puncher. But I don't think anyone's just going to sit there and say, hey, man, come hit me, man. I don't think you can hurt me. You know?
I think when people say they don't score the fight, of course they're going to have a screwed perception, because I remember watching the third Pacquiao-Marquez fight. I did not score that round by round. But when the fight ended, I was screaming robbery. I went back and rewatched it on HBO. And I remember Marquez took the last round off. And I was thinking, how could anyone call that robbery? Because he left it was a very close fight, and he left it in the judge's hands. And it's similar to this fight, not exactly the same, but I thought Loma admitting he lost the last round of taking it off, he kind of left it in the judge's hands. If he had went out and actually done better in the last round or let his hands go a bit more, then I could see why some people may have thought he got robbed, essentially. But I just don't think that was a robbery because the first 6 to 8 rounds were hard to score. And to me, it seemed like Haney's body shots and his work was more effective in the first 6 to 8 rounds. Loma came on strong, but I thought the last round he kind of slipped it away. I got no problem if anyone scored a 7-5 either way or even 6-6. I thought 6-6 was probably fair, but the 7-5 2 scorecards I think are more than reasonable. I just don't see how you could have Loma winning 9 rounds. Like people are saying it's a daylight robbery. I think that's a bit over the top.
I mean, it can't be a robbery. I mean,
why do you have to dominate a round to win it? Centurion. Why do you have to dominate around to win it? That's number one. Number two, when was the head snapping? I didn't start seeing the head snap until round 9.
No,
that's when I started seeing the head snapping. For rounds 1 through 7, I saw a lot of this shit, right? And people were, and I heard, and when this shit was happening, I heard a lot of ooh, ah.
Yep.
Same thing like I saw with Pacquiao. Same thing I saw with Pacquiao Bradley when everyone was freaking going crazy, and Harold Letterman scored at 11-1. But then when I was watching it, and I'm saying these punches aren't landing. I'm not saying none of them landed, but they weren't landing, and some of them that were landing weren't landing clean. They just weren't. Those body shots were landing clean. And then I heard someone say today, well, since all of a sudden people now are counting body punches more than headshots. I asked Steve Weisfeld today. I texted him. And I said, what are your thoughts when people say that they don't value body shots as much as headshots? I said, isn't it called clean, effective punches? I said, he said, body shots and headshots are equal. It all depends on if they're landed clean or not. If a body shot is landed more cleanly than a headshot, then it's going to count more, in my opinion.
The other thing I wanted to say is that, well, first of all, shout out to Blood Boxing, because he actually did an extended film study where he broke things down, paused the video, went back and watched combinations where the crew, the ESPN crew, was giving Loma credit for landing combination punches that when you actually slowed it down and watched it back, he wasn't landing those punches. And the fact is, to your point, Joe, when you're there and up close, and don't forget, the referees are positioned at different corners or different sides of the ring for a reason. We're getting one principal camera angle, right? They're seeing it from multiple angles, and they are able to see what you described with those body shots, touching skin cleanly, all right, being effective blows in a way that we really can't see on television. I definitely couldn't see where I was sitting many rows back. We do have to leave some room for the fact that these were rounds that, if you rewatch them, you may not see the second time what you saw live and what you were hearing from the ESPN commentating crew. Checkmate Boxing, I'm eager to hear what you think about all of this, brother.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, brothers. Listen, I scored it like you and Joe did. I scored it 7-5, Haney. I watched it here in Arizona with my adopted Mexican family, so majority of them were pro Loma crowd. So at the end of the fight, you still had the majority saying Loma won, but there were a couple who were Loma fans who said, you know what, Javier had a draw, had a Haney. So I had to break it down to him. I said, you guys are going off of what the ESPN commentators are saying. They were going crazy off of flurries that wasn't landing. Oh, Loma. Oh, I'm like, this is the most propaganda pushing things I've ever seen in my life. It was horrible. It was disgusting. But the way I saw it is, again, with the effective punches, the guy said, well, effective, clean and effective punches. He thinking body punches aren't effective, like it's supposed to knock him down. If that's the case, then you would never call Floyd Mayweather when he was, Money Mayweather effective, because he wasn't knocking people out. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like even in the first 6 rounds, I believe Haney was pretty much, he dominated the first 6 rounds. You may give Loma 1 round in that, but the later rounds is what Loma came on. Now, a lot of people to a lot of people who in the audience, you couldn't see everything. So if you were looking at Loma's back and he was throwing combinations, you thought they landed, you probably scored that. But I saw from my vantage with the big 80-inch TV, I saw a lot of missed punches. Okay. And I saw Loma Haney had some effective aggression. I didn't expect that. I thought Haney was going to be fighting on the back foot most of the time, but he was actually being effective and aggressive. Did Loma have some eye-popping headshots where Haney's head went back? Absolutely. I thought Loma dominated the 10th and 11th rounds, but Haney won the 12th round. So with people saying it's a robbery, I just don't understand it, because I saw it live with my friends, but then I watched it 2 other times. I watched it again today. So there was definitely no robbery. And people were, again, like you said, Joe and Maestro, they were shoulder programming with the Ukrainian thing. So the sympathy was with Loma. The sympathy was there. And then with the push, they just wanted something to go ahead and latch on and say, now I know why I really want Loma to win with the push. Now, guess what? Those same people who complained about the push were champion when Canelo pushed and punched Plant. Oh, yeah, we got a good fight now. Oh, they're selling the fight now. Nobody complained when Canelo did it, but all of a sudden you have even more reason for your biasness to hate this guy because he pushed him. Take that out of the fight. It was a good fight.
Let me jump in real quick.
Fight.
Let me jump in real quick, and I'm gonna just for a brief second.
Let him land his last point, Joe, and then it's yours. Let him land his last point. Go for it, checkmate.
Okay. It was a good fight, very competitive fight, and boxing should love that. Boxing should love the fact that we got the fights that we wanted. We had 2 of the 2 kings. We had 2 of the 2 kings fight today. The other day, and we had Tank and Ryan. They called them 2 kings fight last month. Boxing is pushing. If we use these guys to motivate you and to get in the great fights we want, then hey, stop complaining about this robbery when it really wasn't. Now, Philly, I don't know how he scored in 9-3. Some people look through biased lens because we all have some type of bias when we really love something. We don't want to see the bad in something. I don't know what he was looking at, but I definitely could not see a 9-3. Ray Charles couldn't see a 9-3, but hey, Philly has his reasons why. So I have to respect whatever way he watched it. That's the way he watched. But great fight, you guys. I don't want to see a rematch. I want to see Tank versus Haney.
That's where I differ. I think we should see a rematch because you know what? Whenever Floyd was in a controversial fight, whether it was Maidana, whether it was Castillo, he rematched them. Andre Ward did the same thing with Kovalev. And by the way, if you want to talk about clean, effective punching, I'll give you an example. Something that Andre Ward used to do very, very well. He jabbed you to the body. It was effective. He'd force people to reset. He'd force people to open up. He'd force them into positions where he'd land other shots. He wasn't dropping them with a jab to the body, but it was a clean, effective punch. Joe,
I'm hearing people who I respect a lot, right? And they're saying things like, there's no way you can score 7 rounds for Haney. They're saying things like, if you gave Haney 7 rounds, that's because you wanted him to win. And I'm like, why would you say something like that? Like, and if you were going to say there's no way that you could do this or you could do that, that's because you don't want it to be that way. It's a lot. There's a lot of projection going on here. Now, if Philly scored it the way he scored it, that's fine. I've never heard Philly say there's no way you can. He said, I can't see. He's not saying there's no way. He's prefacing it in his opinion. I'm hearing people say there's no way you can give this. There's no way you can do that. And if you did, you either bet on him or you wanted him to win. When I know for a fact certain people that had Loma winning by decision said they were betting him to win by decision. So is that a little bit of projection going on there or not? Now, I don't think there was a clear winner in this fight. I had Haney winning, but I don't think there was a clear winner. I agree. I agree. I do think the fight could have gone either way. But I'm not sitting there saying there's no way you could do this. I'm not accusing people of just going with something because they don't want to be wrong. Listen, again, I've been wrong several times. I bet on Lamont Peterson to beat Amir Khan, and I won a lot of money on Lamont Peterson. But I thought Lamont Peterson lost that fight. I picked Andre Durrell to beat Kyle Froch. I bet on Andre Durrell. I won money on Andre Durrell. I scored that fight for Kyle Froch. So I got receipts. I got a history. Now, of course, you can say people are biased. Sometimes people will sway a close round to one guy or if they like that guy. I'm not saying that people aren't human, but I'm just going to be honest. Someone like myself, I go out of my way to be objective. And I was just watching the first half of that fight, and I just was not seeing a lot of clean punches landed by Loma. I saw some. I didn't see a lot.
Too many single shots, I thought, from Loma earlier. That's why I couldn't give him a lot of those.
But the Loma, the people who had Loma winning, honestly, are shaming the Haney people, in my opinion, much more than the other way around, right? And then you got Paulie Malignaggi coming out and saying, if you scored this fight for Haney, you're a scumbag. Really? You're a scumbag because you scored the fight for Haney.
I personally think that's just baiting.
Yeah, or you scored it for Haney because you're black. I'm not black. I'm not black.
That's just bait. You should know this by now. That's just baiting, and they want to get a rise out of you for numbers. So let's all get that out of the way. When shit like that goes down, it's nothing but baiting.
No, but Paulie's saying that on Fight Hype. It's not like he's saying it on his own channel to drive clicks to, or maybe he's hoping it will drive clicks to his channel. I don't know, but to me, that's ridiculous.
It is.
Does Paulie Malignaggi even have a channel?
I
don't know. Paulie TV. I actually
he does.
watch it every now and again.
You're a scumbag if you score that fight for Haney. I've never heard one person say you're a scumbag if you scored that fight for Lomachenko. No one's saying that.
Paulie got some vendetta with Haney. I think this is because of those comments Haney made. But Paulie and him, I think, went back and forth. I remember Paulie calling him out to a fight. I wouldn't take Paulie seriously because he's a very good commentator, but he's very hot and cold when he's got some.
I mean, how long are you going to hold a gripe about something that a 21-year-old said? I mean,
one thing I'm finding here, Maestro, is this, man. People are not saying it and not talking about it. You know, they're talking about the clean punches. They're talking about effective punches. You know, another word for effective punches is a punch that'll make your opponent think about coming in at you at the most inopportune time. And there's a few times, and I'm a Loma fan, and there was a few times I seen Haney hit Loma hard enough to make Loma think about his next attack, and that made him not attack while Haney was up against the ropes. I seen that happen a few times Saturday night, where Haney hit Loma hard enough to make Loma and make him hesitant on whether he should come in or not. Because not only was he able to set Loma up, but he was able to catch Loma 3 times that I can remember with an uppercut when he came in. So these are things that what I think the judges are looking for. Those were effective punches where they affect the boxer in a way where he's hesitant to come in.
Yeah, effective, Jed, doesn't mean I drop the guy or I bust up his nose or, you know, I break his jaw. No, effective means that it's landing and that you're doing what you want to do. It's effective. I'd love to hear from Chicano Prophet. Chicano Prophet, salute, fam. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks. Salute, everyone. Well, you know, I just want to say, you know, I see this fight a lot like Beeb has been describing it on his show and tonight, man. Like, okay, and I'll say this, dude, I had money on Lomachenko, but this fight was no robbery, okay? Not even close. Like, I did drink that night, Maestro. Okay, I had 4 beers, right? But I had it a draw, but I rescored it and I had Loma winning. But there were a lot of swing rounds, dude. I felt like you could easily give this fight to Haney. It was difficult to score even when I was sober, even the next day. This was a really good fight. And I feel like a lot of people are discounting the things that Haney was doing. This is the first time, and I'm like, I'm not an OG like Beeb, but I'm an OG listener. Okay. And I'll tell you this, this whole concept of like body shots not scoring as much as headshots, I've never heard that before. I've never heard that. And all of a sudden it's like a thing right now. I've never heard of that. I'm stunned to hear that. It's kind of disturbing to me, but no, Haney was doing good body shots. Also, people are trying to discount the idea that Haney didn't have a jab. I felt like, well, maybe you could make that argument later on, but I felt like his jab was effective in those early rounds where you could give him those rounds. On top of that, he was giving Loma receipts on the way out. He was tagging Loma when he would come in. He was tagging him when he would come out at times. I felt like he was doing a very good job. So in my opinion, and on top of that too, like I want to say this, Beeb always brings up Pacquiao versus Bradley. And I think that's a good fight to go back and look at. So we do rescores on my show. And we looked at that. And I remember at the time thinking this was a blatant robbery. Go back and take a look. That was not a robbery. And what I'm concerned about is that sometimes people have like they set a permanent narrative on a fight. We should be speaking up right now because you know what? I don't want to look back on this fight and have everybody just call it a robbery and never look at it again. We should talk about it now.
Robbery would have been if Maloney went the distance and they gave it to Maloney by split decision. That would have been a robbery. This was a close fight with a few rounds that were tight, but one in which I felt Haney took the majority of the rounds using a rubric, using a scoring criteria. See, the thing is, a lot of fans, they're just like, yeah, that guy won the round. Well, why did he win the round? What criteria were you using? Look, it's not just because I'm a teacher and I grade to a grade book with a rubric and a criteria, but that's what I apply to boxing. It's not just, oh, well, I think this and I think that, and I watched the fight, and now I'm going to go back and say that rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all Loma. Okay, based on what? I mean,
I thought if KD Taylor had won that fight, that would have been a robbery. I did think Patrick Bradley was a robbery.
That was 7-3, and I'm an Irishman.
People out there, one quick thing, Joe, and then go. There's people out there that are literally saying they thought Taylor won the fight, but who are then calling this fight a robbery. Go for it, Joe.
It was 7-3 to Cameron, and I'm an Irishman. So I had a 7-3 to Cameron, and I'm an Irishman. I was hoping Katie would win, but I was wrong.
You're an Irish boxing fan first.
Hey, let me destroy two narratives of this fight that's being said. Oh well, Haney didn't throw a lot of jabs in this fight. Well, neither did Lomachenko. Do you know why? Do you know why a lot of jabs weren't thrown in this fight?
Southpaw orthodox.
Well, let me explain why. Because the fight was fought at close range, and there were mid-range. There were mid-range punches being thrown, and there were short-range punches being thrown for a large portion of this fight. So neither guy landed a lot of jabs. Haney landed 20 jabs. Lomachenko landed 29. Now, because Haney didn't fight the fight you wanted him to fight or expected him to fight, because he fought an inside fight that I didn't see coming, that no one else seen coming, just because you weren't used to seeing him fight that way, automatically, he fought Lomachenko's fight, and Lomachenko wins because of the ring generalship in the rounds. That's
okay.
Bullshit.
Can I go next?
Yeah, Brian.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. I just want to make an apology. I've done this in Electric Jazz channel this morning because I compared Devin Haney to Winky Wright in his boxing style. And I want to apologize to Shane Winky Wright for shaming him and that because he's not as good as Winky Wright using the jab and all that. But apart from that, right? That's a joke, by the way. To start off, right? I've watched this fight 12 times. 12 times. I've scored it 4 times. I've scored it 4 times. I cannot give Devin Haney 6 rounds. I can't even get at 5 at a push. 5 at a push. And that's me being generous. I've had it 8-4, 7-5, 9-3, and 8-4. All to Lomachenko. Right?
Well, you know what, Brian? That's why we don't have one judge in boxing. That's why we have 3 judges.
Yeah.
That's why
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Points of
ask me anything.
That's why judges
Now
sit at different sides of the ring. Go for it, Joe.
Now, again, I don't have a problem with Brian saying that. But let me ask Brian a question. Do I have permission to score 7 rounds?
Yeah, you can score. You can score a fight whatever way you want with your own with your own boxing criteria. Yeah,
the other people are telling me I can't. Yeah,
with your own boxing criteria, right? And the same thing with me. I can score a fight with my own boxing criteria. I'm not a biased person, right? I actually picked Devin prior to the fight to win. Electro Jed will tell you that. He will tell you that. I said it in a number of panels I've been on. I thought Devin Haney would control the fight, utilizing his jab on the back foot, right? Devin Haney gave up his physical advantages in this fight.
All right, let me stop.
He gave up his height. He gave up his reach. It was an inside fight, and he played directly into Lomachenko's hands. Right. Every time.
Brian,
sorry,
I want to stop you right there because this is a phenomenon that I was actually talking to Joe about earlier this morning, and it's the phenomenon of the story of the fight. This is a famous or infamous saying that Max Kellerman had a few years ago when he was on HBO.
Yeah.
You set up a narrative in your head about what a fighter needs to do to be effective going into the fight. And then if a fighter doesn't do what you said he needed to do and what you thought he needed to do to be effective, you then say that he lost the round.
No, Eric, let me rephrase this, right?
Haney, one second, bro, then you could go. Haney never needed to box long and tall to win this fight. To me, he proved in this fight that he could do multiple things in the ring, including honestly beating Loma at close range in multiple exchanges. But go for it.
Yeah. Okay, right. I don't think he needed to do that to be effective in this fight. I think he needed to do that to win this fight. For me, not to be effective in the fight, but to win it. And you give up all your physical advantages, right? It's an inside fight. Loma was throwing double left hands or 2-1 combination, which anyone who's a southpaw, anyone who's like an orthodox, that's like a 1-2 for an orthodox, right? For a right-hander, right? I thought he was in and out, aggressive. I thought he controlled the pace of the fight for the majority. Devin was utilizing the jab. He was going to the body, but he was throwing single shots, right? When Loma was getting in, he was throwing combinations. And no, they didn't always land, right? But I thought at times, he outscored Devin in certain rounds to win fights, right? And I thought he was more effective with his punches. Right, to win certain rounds. I freaking enjoyed this fight, right? I actually think this was not a fight, right? This was a technical boxing masterclass from both guys.
Well, how could it be a masterclass if you scored it 9 rounds to 3 for Lomachenko?
Because I thought Devin at times, showed class with the shots he selected and his movements, right? Every time Devin moved to his right-hand side, Loma cocked the left hand, and it was ready to go. And I thought Devin, when he stepped back, when he was relaxed and he was on the back foot and he boxed and he was able to step back and counter, there was a couple of times where he landed pure, beautiful shots on Loma. Right, I'm not saying some of those rounds were one-sided. I'm saying Loma won the majority of those rounds just by outworking Devin. I'm not saying Devin did not land clear shots or at times didn't look beautiful doing it or beautiful shots going to the body. I'm not saying that. I just like what Loma's work. I just like Loma's work a little bit better than I like Devin's in this fight, and that's a personal thing for me, right? And I always say, in my opinion, that's the way I've seen it.
Look, Loma had a lot going against him in this fight, at least on paper. He's the foreigner, although there was a lot of sympathy towards him being a Ukrainian. There were 3 U.S. judges. He was fighting in the United States, obviously. And this was brought up in the chat, and it's something that, yes, I did have a big issue with, which is the idea of a 9 a.m. weigh-in. And I actually went live on Saturday morning and talked about that. It was A-side flexing, right? Because when Tank did it, it was the opposite way around. Tank wanted the weigh-in to take place as late as possible because of the rehydration limit, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now that Haney is in the position of being an A-side, he insisted on it the other way around because obviously he wanted to be able to rehydrate.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, you know, there's a lot of things there that I didn't quite like, but I put all of that aside once the bell went ding, 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 and the fight started. At that point, you know, I'm not letting the crowd affect my judgment, right? And when I turned it on the following day, I actually watched it twice the following day, once with the commentary that the Sky Sports people had, which was a different commentating crew, and another time with the ESPN crew. I actually felt that the Chris Algieri call was a lot.
That's what I watched here.
The 4 times, the 4 times I scored it right
was a
the
lot
4 times
than the ESPN calls.
Yeah, here the 4 times I scored it, I watched the fight on mute.
Yeah, having said that, if Max Kellerman if Max Kellerman had scored the 12th round of draw, or even,
it would have. He gave the 12th round to Loma, and he should have given it to Haney. But I thought the ESPN commentary was really bad because the crowd was pro Loma, and the commentary was all over the place.
It's almost like good cop, bad cop, Hamed. You had Bradley with Loma, and you had Ward kind of like trying to check Tim a little bit, saying, "Hey, Bradley's like, oh, 4-punch combination," and then you got Ward like saying, "Tim, none of those punches landed." Like it was like almost like
Ward. Ward was.
That's exactly
I haven't watched the ESPN one yet, though.
Well, one thing I've noticed that nobody is saying, and nothing against anyone here on the panel, but you know, people need to open up their eyes. Being there live, seeing it live, I was able to see these 2 men bring out of each other what no other boxers were able to do. These men had changed styles, were forced to do things they hadn't done before, and that's what made this fight a great fight. First of all, Loma usually takes between 2 and 4 rounds to download information. Sorry, didn't do that this time. Haney didn't give him the opportunity to download information. The fight was on from round 1 to round 12. That's number 1. Number 2, I think that Loma brought out in Haney some of the talent that we knew he had, but never showed it. Now Haney pulled out his entire tool bag to win this fight. That's what I want to see when I go to a fight. I want to see these guys pull everything out to win this fight. And these 2 men, these 2 individuals brought it out of each other. That's what I appreciate boxing for the most. These 2 men did it for each other. I don't care how you scored the fight. These 2 men brought out the best in each other. That's what I saw.
I just find it extremely weird that of all of the fights that people could have been up in arms about, being a draw, oh, I'm never going to pay for boxing again. This is why boxing is wrong. This is the fight? Really? This is
the problem, though.
I think the situation of this fight, right? Because a lot of people saw it right? A lot of people saw it this way, right? This was for undisputed, right? And there was a lot on the line, and I think people just wanted, you know, judges to, you know, not have like any type of bias and going with it and they're human, right? And they see what they see in that ring. They only get one opportunity to see it, right?
Yeah,
so
people keep screaming robbery. Golovkin Canelo rematch was not a robbery. Like people, look, the thing I put on Twitter, a lot of people use CompuBox. If we're gonna start using CompuBox, then surely facial damage could be used as well, because neither of those are scoring criteria. This is why I don't get like a close fight. Call it a robbery. I just think people are going over the top.
Well, even by CompuBox, they each won 6 rounds in terms of CompuBox, which tells you even by CompuBox it was a close fight. So how could a close decision be a robbery? But let me go to Nando because he dropped a super chat. And please, if you're in the chat, drop a like, hit the like button, drop a comment rather. Smash the like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button because you're always going to find the real boxing talk here. We don't shy away from our opinions, and we don't have problems with people expressing other opinions either. Let's go to Nando. Thank you so much, Nando. Nando says all 3 times that Lona has lost, an army of fans and media spring into action with excuses and recriminations in perpetuity, smooth diminishing all 3. It is weird to me though that this does happen. Nando has a point. I mean, with the Salido, they jumped in there, and there was a lot of talk about Salido was dirty, Salido was cheating. You know, when Loma lost to Teofimo, there's again there was a lot of
shoulder
about
injury.
Exactly, and now of all of the fights, this is the one. I mean, I just think people are being extremely harsh on Devin Haney. I get it; he bothered you with the shove, but like I said, once that bell goes ding, 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 you got to leave that all by the wayside if you're going to be fair and if you're going to be properly judging the fight using a scoring criteria that actually should be the unified rules of boxing. And again, we heard it at least twice already from 2 different people. I mean, people are bringing up things that are not actually how you score fights. That's just not how you do it.
Those punches didn't hurt. Those punches didn't hurt. Oh, he wasn't slowing down. Oh, I mean, what does that mean?
None of that is scoring criteria.
What does that mean?
This is the problem. This is the problem, though. Against Teo, I thought Teo won 8 or 9 rounds, and Loma did nothing. I think for the first 8, maybe he might have won a round if you want to be generous. And they still were refusing to give Teo credit. They were saying Teo didn't do anything, while Loma was literally just backpedaling and walking around the ring. I rewatched that fight recently. Like, I don't get it. Why every time like one of their favorites loses, people start screaming controversy and start, getting all political. I think the Salido fight, the problem with that was the referee, because I do think Salido hit Loma low a lot of times, but I just think you gotta be, a bit more objective, man.
Way more objective.
What was really crazy about Paulie said, he said this is why, white people are going to UFC. They're quitting boxing now because of fights like this. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
no, I didn't see that comment. I did see that he said that if you scored it for Haney, you only scored it because you wanted the white boy to lose or the white guy to lose.
No, he said it on Twitter. He said white people are watching UFC. What the fuck?
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah, he said.
Hey, look,
he said this is why white people are leaving boxing and going to UFC because of stuff like this. He said you got, you're not going to get that audience if you have fights like this. Basically, what he's saying is you need to elevate somebody.
I think we lost checkmate, but no, I mean that's obviously a ridiculous thing to say.
Eastern European species, the dominant species, yeah. So
he said that comment before.
Paulie made ridiculous comments. Nelly, the rapper Nelly, made ridiculous comments about he's quitting boxing on this.
First of all, I gotta correct you. Nelly no rapper. Nelly a pop artist. Let's stop the cap. Okay, and by the way, he
a lot of people really got emotional. A lot of people got emotional. A lot of people got emotional.
I got a personal question to ask. I got to ask Maestro.
Yeah,
and this is personal, brother.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it? Because if you remember, you told me like Zab Judah, like creeped up on us and walked by and stuff like that. The second you told me that,
yeah,
I went, and all the boxing knowledge in me disappeared like that. And all I did was fanboy. How the hell do you not fanboy, Maestro? Because I found that I couldn't do any interviews because I was a fanboy. everybody I saw, I couldn't ask a question.
I mean, I've been going to fights for a long time, Electrojet, and I live in New York City, where you literally see celebrities all the time, like in supermarkets. I've seen Samuel L. Jackson on the street. I've so many people I've seen, but I go to all of the fights here, so I see fighters all the time.
I feel like I let my people on my channel down because I couldn't do it. I was like
too
starstruck.
Yeah, that typically doesn't. Well, it doesn't happen to me. But
you got to give me some lessons, man, because I lost my shit, man.
There you go. Let's go to Philly. Philly, what's good?
Like, there's a couple things I gotta bring up. People judge fights on different ways. Like, let's say if a guy landed like 10 punches in the round, and the other guy landed 15. Let's say out of those 15 punches, 10 of them were jabs, and the guy that landed 10 punches landed 8 like power shots that were effective. Some people will go more to the guy that had the more power effective punches than the jabs, because the jabs don't really do much. It's just like a setup thing a little bit. But some guys will go with the jab. The guy that landed 15 punches, doesn't matter if he landed the jabs or not, 10 jabs or not, because he had more of a punch output. Some judges don't really pick up body shots that much. I've seen a history of it. They're like, it's a shame, but it's true. There's some fights that judges don't really look at body shots more than net shots. And I look at it like this. Should there be a rematch? Yes, there should be a rematch. And if people don't think there should be a rematch, there seriously is a problem. And the other thing is,
when you're done, I'll explain why I said that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But here's the thing about it. This fight, people can say that I'm bullshitting or not, and I don't give a flying fuck. Devin Haney was somewhat exposed in this fight because the smaller guy did push him back. Now, these guys like Tank, Shakur at 135, people are going to think differently now. I really think Tank has a better shot beating Devin Haney now.
Drew, let me ask you this, because I've been hearing that narrative, he got exposed. Well, first of all, I don't know how an elite fighter can expose you, because he is elite, number one. But number two, let's not act like Devin Haney has never fought on the back foot before. Devin Haney fought on the back foot against Yuriorkis Gamboa for stretches in that fight. And Yuriorkis Gamboa is a blown-up featherweight. So the fact that he was boxing on the back foot against Loma, to me, is no way indicative of the fact that he was quote-unquote exposed. Devin Haney's fought on the back foot in multiple fights.
Here's the thing. Everybody knows he don't have the power now. Even if he was trying to...
I've been saying that for a while.
But here's the thing. He fought a pure boxer for once. Now the only two other guys that people want to see him fight, Shakur, a pure boxer. Tank can box his ass off. He's a knockout puncher. These are both dangerous fights, and these are both losable fights for Devin Haney. And that's why I'm saying when he moves up to 140, it's a whole nother hell waiting for him at 140, because there are killers up there. Does he beat him? He maybe beat one of the top 10, maybe one of the top 5, and that's Jose Ramirez. Because I think
he beats Ramirez. Yeah,
he beats Jose Ramirez.
Yeah,
I think Taylor beats him. I think Prograis beats him.
I agree. Actually,
it's just what I saw. It's just in my view, in my opinion. That's how I see it. People don't have to agree with it.
So a guy who fought on the back foot for multiple fights in his career, including against smaller opponents, got exposed because for a few stretches in this fight he was fighting on the back foot. I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that.
Do you think he was forced? Do you think he was forced back? That's what you're saying?
That's his style. That's his style. Like, for instance,
boxing is a tactical decision.
That's his style
all the time.
Floyd fought on the back foot, so was he exposed? Listen, how could he be exposed if people can't call into the draw?
Here's the thing. Every time he backs up,
did he expose Loma? So my point is, neither one of them exposed each other. It was a good fight. I can't see how you gonna say expose. He must expose Loma too, because I had him winning. But I want to say that I wanted to make my point that you said about the rematch. The reason why I said it shouldn't be a rematch because Devin Haney says he only has like one fight left for 140. So do I want him until we go to 140? Do I want him to waste that one fight at 135 on a rematch, or I don't want him to waste that one fight he got left on Tank? I want to see him versus Tank. You know what I mean? So you saying a rematch and all of a sudden he go to 140. Guess what? You'll never get Tank. You know what I mean? For and Haney for undisputed.
Tank's
so
the money fight for him. Tank's the money fight for him.
That's generational fight. Wait, let me finish. Win or lose, because I think he's going to get knocked out. But guess what? That's generational money right there. So he can bounce back, but he's going to be a whole lot richer. Go ahead.
I do agree with that. I think Tank does knock Haney out now. I do agree on that one, but I really
thought that.
But I really think on it right now. I don't think there's too many obstacles for the Tank fight to happen. There's just too many obstacles.
We said that about Ryan, though, Drew. We said the same thing about the Ryan fight, and it got done.
But here's the thing.
I think when a fight is so big, I think this would be a monster fight. Maybe not as big as Ryan, but I think it would be close. Believe it or not, but all this controversy surrounding Haney right now. Could be bigger.
That's why I think it would be bigger. People hate Haney because what he did to Loma. You know, remember, this is the same Loma who got a title shot after with a 1-0 record. This is the same Loma who won his first title at 1-1. You know what I'm saying? So this is the same Loma who they've been pushing, who they call pound for pound number one at with a 9-1 record. So this is the same Loma they've been elevating to get. Wait 1 second. This is the same Loma they've been elevating, so they wanted him to get undisputed. They've been grooming him for undisputed, and they feel like Haney robbed them of that justice.
Well, this is the same Loma that never gave Gary Russell Jr. a rematch. This is the same Loma who fought a guy who was a natural 118-pounder in Rigo at 130 when Team Rigo wanted it at 126. But knew that they'd never get the fight at 120.
He was
so ended up fighting at 130. I mean, Hold on, checkmate. I do sympathize with people who feel that their guy lost in Loma, all right, and who do want a rematch for him. But at the end of the day, when the shoe was on the other foot, I mean, at least with Gary Russell Jr., he never got a rematch. And I'm saying that as somebody who wants Haney to give Loma a rematch because I thought it was a close fight.
Maestro, can I ask
I
you a question?
think that there's unfinished business that should be taken care of. Go for it, Philly.
Was the Gary Russell fight one-sided, in your opinion?
I mean,
the Rigo fight one-sided in your opinion?
The Rigo fight was really one-sided, but it was one-sided because it took place at 130. Remember, you said it was 126. It was.
I don't think the Gary Russell fight was one-sided. But I did have Lomachenko winning.
Yeah,
I had Lomachenko win, but I don't think it was one-sided.
Won 9 rounds in that fight. So here's the thing.
I had it 8-4, but
I thought the Weagle fight happened because everybody wanted him to fight Weagle. But now when he knocked him out, everybody wanted to say,
no, people wanted him to fight Rigo at 126. No one who wanted that fight, and I was one person who was interested in that fight. I don't know anybody who wanted that fight at 130. I don't know a single person.
But to checkmate's point, if Haney does have one more fight left, I want the rematch too because I think the rematch with Loma would be big too because of all the people talking about it. I think that he's gonna, he may want his get back after listening to all these people, down him like this, whatever. But if he really truly believes that there's only one more fight left, then the biggest money fight for him would be Tank. I want the rematch too. I want the rematch too. But if it comes down to business and he could get that Tank fight, then I understand why you would take it.
Let's get Bruce Kai on because I just realized I had him in the back room. Bruce Kai, what's good?
What's good, fellas? Well, a quick one, man. I've seen this everywhere, and it's kind of confusing me because I've seen so many people talking about close fight, and I agree. My bias is definitely with Lomachenko. I thought he won, but I say it's a close fight, and I understand how people gave it to Haney, totally. But people keep on saying close fight, and then the way they talk about Haney winning is like it was lopsided.
No,
close fight. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying the general consensus of what I've seen is when they start talking about, yeah, it was a close fight, and then they go into Haney winning, and it sounds so lopsided. And I'm like, close fight means either could have won. So
well, I agree with you, Bruce.
You know why that is, in my opinion. You know why that is, in my opinion.
Why?
1 second.
Because they're responding. Because they're responding to people saying that there's no way you could give Haney 7 rounds. So they're responding to someone else being over the top from Lomachenko. So that's why a lot of people are coming back that way.
I was actually going to say something else. And what I was going to say is that I've seen content creators actually go at people who said it was a close fight, who say that they're calling it a fight that could have gone either way, or a fight that was a close fight, or a fight that could have been a draw is outrageous. You know,
I don't think you could take some of these content creators serious.
Same thing, Joe.
And a lot of boxers and pundits and some of the outlets I've seen, how they had Loma winning, and in the first instance straight after the fight, there were so many videos I was watching where people are saying, oh my god, it's a robbery, and the cards and this and that. I feel like, and I agree with you guys, I'd rather see Haney fight Tank, or even, you know, Shakur or whatever. I just don't see him, even though I think he should, I just don't see him rematching Loma at this point, because for me, being a Loma fan but trying to be as objective as I can, I feel like it exposed more about Haney in a negative light than it did what people thought Loma was going to look like. Because the talk before was, Loma's over the hill, oh, is he going to do that? Devin Haney's such a pure boxer, going to expose him. And the fight being as close as it was, I didn't see this KO, knockout, shutout that everybody and their auntie thought was going to happen. So for me, it shone a light more on Haney's lack of stepping up those levels that we thought he was going to, than looking at Loma going, man, you lost the fight. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, I feel like Haney has more to prove, in just the sense that if you're going to win like that, at least be honest and go, yeah, you know what? It was kind of close. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to run it back and show people how I'm a level above.
Can I just say, I agree with a lot of what he's saying, but I agree with Drew and thing in terms of exposing this aspect. I thought Teofimo decisively beat Lomachenko better than Haney, and I thought Haney down the stretch was getting bullied by a guy who's, I think, a natural featherweight, maybe super featherweight, you could say. Haney to me looks like a guy who will end up a welterweight. So in that term, I do think you could say that, but I thought Lopez did a much better job. I thought this was a close fight, which could have gone either way. Could have been a draw. I don't think there was a clear winner. If it went the other way, I wouldn't have cried robbery. But to me, when the fight ended, I thought I got a 7-5 Haney, but I might be a round off. This is a fight that I think could be a draw. So
I do thing about that, Hamed, and it's this: when guys do big weight cuts and rehydrate a lot, usually that causes stamina issues. So the fact that a bigger guy who did a big weight cut later in the fight wasn't as physically strong as you might have expected is not necessarily a shocking thing, at least to me. But having said that, I thought Haney bounced back pretty well in the 12th, personally.
Oh, yeah, I know. I agree with that. But I think on the inside, the way Lopez fought Lopez held his ground. And I don't think Lopez might be. Is who's bigger? Is Lopez bigger than Haney? Because to me, Haney looked like he was bigger on the night.
I think Haney's a little bigger. I think Haney's a little bigger than Lopez.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think Lopez could compete at 140. I don't know about Haney. I think if Josh Taylor and Haney fight, and some of these other guys, I would probably favor them to beat Haney. But it's up to Haney what he wants to do. I think a rematch makes sense.
And let me be clear about something. Yes, I'm a guy that doesn't like rematches. And I agree with Nopal on that one. I think Nopal asked me about that earlier in the chat. I'm definitely not a favor of rematches when I don't think rematches, there's any reason for them. Like, I'll give an example. AJ Usyk 2. I didn't really think we needed a rematch there, personally. But this, to me, is an AJ Usyk 2. There's, no controversy in that fight at all. I thought that fight was actually one-sided. I thought this was a very competitive fight with swing rounds. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the public is divided on this. There's public debate. I don't think there was any public debate about Usyk versus.
Yeah, 100%. There was no. And as an AJ fan, for me, there was no debate. For this one, I feel like, you know, Haney's come out of this no better off in terms of, okay, he's still undisputed, but in terms of that little star, that little shine where it's like, wow, you see what he did? He's not come out. In fact, to me, he's come out just a little less because he's talking like it was a landslide. His dad's talking like it was a landslide. And again, you know, apart from the people crying robbery, which I think is nonsense, if it was a close fight, then it can be a close fight either way. You have to keep the same energy. You can't just say it was a close fight for your guy. Like, again, at least admit your bias. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't, then understand that it didn't come out how people thought it would. How you know what I'm saying? For Haney, how they thought it would.
Okay, but
5 is a close fight.
Right.
Especially when you've got at least 3, if not 4 rounds there that subjectively, you know, depending on what you're looking at, you could have given it to the other guy. Like I said this, I would have been fine 7-5 Loma. I wouldn't have thought that was crazy. I wouldn't have thought 14-14 would have been crazy either, which again leads credence to the idea that they should think about revisiting this fight. Checkmate.
100%.
Yeah, I guess. For me, I'm having a problem processing when he said Haney was exposed. When you say Loma is an all-time great, he was #1 pound for pound. He's going to the Hall of Fame. But how can you be exposed in a 7-5 fight? How can you expose? Right. So you're telling a great fight, but you're saying he's supposed. If you're saying Loma is this person that's all-time great, then he's supposed to struggle with Loma. Am I correct? He's supposed to lose rounds to Loma. So my thing is, Loma, you know, I don't see anywhere where Devin was exposed.
I only, and I don't say exposed, you know, in the sense we're talking. I only say that the more it was the expectation that people had and the chat before that he was going to completely dominate because Loma was over the hill because he wasn't really that, and you're going to see Haney escalate and do this, that, and the other.
Well, you're talking about you're talking about people's perspective.
I don't think that was the prevailing view. I think that some Haney fans were saying that. I think Haney himself was saying that, but I'd be pressed to pull out a quote from somebody that I really respect in the sport of boxing, like Keith Idec or Doug Fisher or somebody along that lines who was saying that Haney was going to do all of these things to Loma.
Yeah,
I never saw a knockout coming. I never saw either one knocking each other. I knew it was going to go the distance, and I expected Haney to win. I won money on. Listen, I bet several times. I bet several people on Twitter, and you know, won some money. Won on betting site, but guess what?
People on Twitter, they never pay you, man.
Oh, they always pay me. They always pay me, buddy. Listen, I bet with credible people, not ones who ignore my bets like Joe Habib. But listen, this. Joe just straight up ignored my bet. But listen,
professional gambler, man. I can't bet with people on Twitter.
I pay up, brother. Listen, so I knew that Haney was going to win, but I did a separate bet with that Katie Taylor. I did a parlay and I lost my parlay on that. So I knew he was going to win. So let me go ahead and hedge this bet and do it. You know what I mean? A straight Haney win, you know, by decision. So I won that, but I lost my parlay. So I made several $100s. I'm good.
Quick question for everyone. Let's just say they rematch and Haney wins decisively. And then for some in the magical boxing gods that Shakur steps up and they decide to fight, who wins, Shakur or Haney?
Shakur.
I think Shakur is the best guy at 135 right now.
Agreed.
I think Shakur.
You think he beats Tank?
I said that before this.
Y'all think Shakur beat Tank?
I think Shakur beats everyone at 135.
You know why I think
Shakur really think Shakur beats Tank? Y'all late to the train.
No. Let me tell you why I think Shakur could beat Tank. Shakur has no problems fighting a defensive first fight, regardless of if people are booing, regardless of if it's quote unquote not a fan friendly performance. And at the end of the day, Isaac Pitbull Cruz went 12 rounds with Tank Davis.
With one hand, and Tank outboxed him clearly. With one hand, and Tank beat him 8-4. With one hand.
Yuriorkis Gamboa went almost the full 12.
Yuriorkis Gamboa landed 13%. 13%. Tank knocked him down 3 times. Tank still dominated. So you can't wait. Yuriorkis Gamboa landed 78 punches on Tank. Listen, let me finish, please. Let me finish. Gamboa landed 78 punches on Tank the entire fight. Yuri Goga's Gamboa did nothing. So I don't get what y'all saying about that. Tank is faster than Shakur. Tank is more athletic than Shakur. Tank boxing kills is on par. Tank, I mean, there's so many things that Tank does that Shakur don't.
We got it. You love Tank. And Tank.
No. I'm giving a breakdown. I'm giving a breakdown. I think Tank's going to have trouble with Frank Martin.
I understand it.
I say Tank's biggest gamble at 135 will be Frank Martin.
Maestro, can I say something to him?
Go for it.
You know he fought Gamboa on one leg, right?
No, he put Gamboa down. If Gamboa fought on one leg, why did he keep popping up? Why did he keep popping up if he fought him on one leg? If I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball, I done broke ankles, I done broke legs. You don't pop back up if something is really, your corner won't send you back out there if something is really wrong with your Achilles. Okay?
Really? I've seen
really?
fighters
fought on a torn ACL for 5 rounds.
I was at Achilles fight against David Morrell Jr. Unfortunately, trainers throw their fighters in there all the time when they shouldn't.
On Achilles? Achilles?
And Yuri Foreman fought on a torn ACL for 5 rounds against Miguel Cotto.
Yeah.
I said Achilles. Listen, many fighters fight with injuries.
It was an Achilles until after they got it medically examined. You think that their trainer has access to MRIs and X-rays in the corner?
Well, like I said, he landed 78 punches that entire fight. It wasn't even close. He won one round.
I think we're going off topic. Can I just see if it was a draw? If it was a draw, would the same people be crying robbery? Because I've seen people say Loma won 8-9 rounds, but say if it was a draw, like this is why I'm trying to understand, because Canelo Golovkin, the rematch, I don't think was a controversial decision or a robbery, but people are saying that was a robbery. Like if this fight ended a draw, would people be calling it a robbery or not?
Hey, Maestro.
Look, I would say this about the draw. All right, Max Kellerman, who's, let's just call it for what it is. I mean, he's been a Loma fanboy since Loma turned pro. Okay, on HBO. Had he given Haney the 12th round, a round that a lot of people who were even saying that they thought Loma won, that Haney won that round, Max Kellerman's scorecard would have been a draw. Is he crazy? Is he delusional? Is he a Loma hater? No. So, I mean, I'm not that far off from Max Kellerman's scorecard. And he had Loma barely winning the fight. How you could go from that to a robbery, honestly, is beyond me. But guess what? Hopefully we get a rematch.
It's like this, Maestro.
Hey, Maestro.
Shakur Stevenson is the most accurate puncher at 135. If Tank try to get inside of Shakur Stevenson, Shakur hits him, pop shots him all night. It's just
all right, cool. Let's go to Ricky Ricardo because he's been waiting here patiently for a while. Go for it, Ricky.
Ricky.
Yeah. So what's up, fellas? So I had it. I rewatched it, rescored it. I had it 7-5 for Loma. But there were like 3 swing rounds. Again, I watched it twice. What do I think should happen with Haney? In my opinion, I think he should go to 140. If he's going to hang around at 135, the only money fight to make is going to be Tank. That's going to be a very difficult fight. Not only the politics, but the stipulations. But of course, I would want to see that fight. The only other money fight that he can get is going to be with a rematch with Lomachenko. Other than that, go to 140, release those titles. As scattered as they'll be. So
going into this fight, I felt that the best fight for Haney was going to be to take on Teofimo, whether Teofimo wins or Teofimo loses against Josh Taylor. And by the way, I think Teofimo loses against Josh Taylor. Just because there's beef, just because they could present it as, listen, he's, fighting at 140 for the first time. So this is, pretty good litmus test. Let's see how he does at 140, rather than jumping in there with a guy like Prograis or Taylor or somebody of that stature. But now, because of the way this fight went, I'd actually like to see him handle business against Loma.
I got Taylor in that fight, in my opinion, and I think Taylor goes to 147 after that fight.
We'll see.
So, Maestro, he only got one.
When I spoke to Taylor last, which was in Newark, he said that he's intent on staying at 140. So we'll see.
Okay, okay. Because I know he mentioned Bud Crawford a lot prior, so I didn't know it seemed like that's where he wanted to go based on some of the interviews I've seen. But okay.
Yeah.
Maestro.
Okay.
If he only has one fight left at 135, why would he waste it on a rematch?
How do you know he has only one fight left?
Because
at 135?
I'm saying, I said if he has only one fight left because he said he may got one, because I don't even think he's going to fight Shakur at 135. I think he's going to wait to fight. I think he's going to fight Shakur at 140.
To be honest, I think that the Loma fight's probably going to be an easier fight for him than the Shakur or a Tank fight, especially now that he's been in the ring with him for 12 rounds. Look, I get that this fight was more of a learning experience for Haney than it was for Loma. I think he goes into the rematch knowing exactly what he's in front of and knowing what to do. Personally,
so you don't want him to fight Tank at 135, basically.
I'd like to see the fight with Tank, but given all of the controversy of surrounding this fight, I think it's a bad look for Haney if he fights anybody other than Loma. That's just my personal view.
Well, again, I'm banking everything I'm thinking. If Haney was going to stay there for 3 more fights, sure, let's do the rematch. Haney said himself, even the other day, he said, you know what? He said, I'm going to fight Tank sooner rather than later. He said, Shakur, he said, that's going to happen. It can happen down the road, but eventually it's going to happen. He's not keen on fighting Shakur right now. Let me tell you the reason why. Because people want him to fight Shakur, and he knows that he's having problems making 135. He says, I'm going to fight that. People are going to demand that, which is going to make it a big money fight at 140. So he's banking on that right now. He can get generational wealth fighting Tank, which is everybody's going to watch, because now people hate him. The people that hate him, who hate him more than hate Tank, is going to watch, and they're going to tune in.
Yeah, and I mean, look, he's getting hate from Tank fans because obviously they enjoy the fact that there's controversy around Haney, who is the undisputed champion. All right, he's getting hate from the Loma fans who feel that their guy was robbed, right? And that people like me and Joe and others who scored the fight for Haney, I guess, don't know anything about boxing, right? Or what was it, Joe? Scumbags and all the other things.
We're scumbags, bro.
Or only wanted Loma or only thought Haney won because we wanted a white guy to lose and blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. There's no risk of Tank outgrowing 135. I mean, whether he fights Tank next or fights Tank after fighting Loma, I mean, there's no risk of Tank moving out of the division. So Tank is going to be there as far as I'm concerned.
Tank is going to be there. Haney's not going to be there.
As long as Haney is willing to make the sacrifice to make 135, the Tank fight is going to be there.
Let me ask you again, my question to you, if he had one fight left at 135, would you rather be a rematch with Loma or Tank for undisputed?
I mean, if the rematch with Loma is going to be for undisputed. So
no, that's not my question, sir. My question is, if Haney said, I only have one fight, you got to choose one fight at 135. Is it going to be Tank or is it going to be Loma?
What's a bigger fight? What's a bigger fight?
The real question is,
I'm gonna say Tank if I had a choice. I'll say Tank.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, but the real question is, how realistic is it going to be able to make?
Okay, but that's not my point. My point is, if you want,
I think it's very realistic they can make that fight. I think it's extremely realistic they can make that fight because it's huge.
It is realistic.
It's huge.
I'm just trying to get Maestro to answer.
I'm going to answer the question. As a fan, I would rather see the Tank fight. But and I'm putting myself in Haney's shoes right now, not in me, the fan shoes. Me, the fan, I want to see him take on Tank. If I'm Haney, though, I got to run it back with Loma. I have to because of my legacy, because of what people are saying. Because if he doesn't fight Loma again and fights anybody else at 135, they're going to say he ducked Loma and that he went because he didn't win convincingly, and despite all of the public outcry from people like Nelly and Jean-Claude Van Damme and all of these other people, he decided to go to some other route. So
I'm not sure though. I'm not sure if he's got 2 fights left.
But you
I'm
know
not
what?
sure.
Rematch, Loma.
I'm not sure if he's got 2 fights left, though. That's the thing.
But you know what?
Well, then he just has to insist that Tank do something he's already done, and then he takes the fight at 140. Boom, problem solved.
Not gonna, no,
But you
it's
know
for
what?
undisputed. It makes no sense.
Why not?
He can't fight him at undisputed. We're talking about undisputed.
Hold on, we gotta unpack that. I'm gonna ask.
Talk about undisputed.
Let me ask the questions. If Tank could fight Barrios at 140, why can't he fight Haney at 140?
Haney's not undisputed 140.
Was Barrios undisputed at 140?
Haney's not undisputed 140. Haney is one. And Haney fight. What's bigger, Maestro? Okay,
at 140.
But I'm trying to answer. What's the bigger fight? Tank Haney for undisputed or Tank Haney for no title at 140?
Tank for undisputed, obviously.
Okay, that's it. Okay, that's it.
That's what Haney brings to the table. That's not what Tank brings to the table. I'm asking. No, I'm being serious. You're talking about what's big for Tank.
I'm saying, what's the biggest fight for boxing? Tank and Haney for no belt at 140, or Tank and Haney for undisputed at 135?
Checkmate. Let me answer this, Philly, and then go. Checkmate. With all due respect, okay. With all due respect, you were getting beyond excited about a fight at a catch weight with a rehydration clause at 136, and now all of a sudden you're Mr. It needs to be undisputed to be a big fight.
Well, first of all, I never wanted. No. I never wanted Tank Ryan. I never asked for Tank Ryan. I didn't think Ryan was top 5.
No, I'm sorry, Checkmate.
I will send you all my tweets saying I don't think Ryan is can beat the top 8 at 135, sir.
You're about to get checkmated. Just wait for it. I put you in the check, okay? Because you spent the better part of the last 2 months trying to convince people on this channel that Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis was the bigger fight than the undisputed fight between Devin Haney and Loma. Now all of a sudden,
I beg you to find it. I beg you. I will pay you $100. I will pay you $100 if you can find that, sir. Audio, or I've never said that in my life. I beg you to find that. Search my tweets.
Listen, I sent out a tweet saying that this was the real fight at 135, and you responded with a GIF of Tank Davis flashing money. So let's not.
But point is, I never thought Ryan was a king.
Let's not play games.
Well, okay, well, let me respond. You said you checkmated me, right? I've never ever. Okay, can I respond? I've never ever. I didn't think Ryan was top 8 at 135. I thought he was artificially anointed. I said he would get annihilated by Tank. You guys on this panel, you and Beeb, said that he would beat Tank. You and Beeb said Tank is not going to be able to hang with Ryan. You and Beeb said that Ryan was bigger, faster, and I said, wait, can I finish?
I said he was concerned about the weight, and you know what? He said he was concerned about the weight. I never said he was hanging there with Ryan.
Both of you said that Ryan was going to beat Tank. I said he was going to KO him, and I won money doing that. So my point is, no, I thought Ryan was artificially anointed. I always
you bet KO 1 through 6. He knocked him out in the 7th. You lost.
Okay, okay. You want me to show you my slip, Joe? Listen, I always thought Haney and Loma for undisputed would be a great fight. What do you talk about? I was like, yes, we got a great fight coming up.
We're gonna do
Ryan.
Ryan
wasn't even on the same level.
We checkmated right here. You checkmated.
You can't. Hey, you can't claim no fake checkmate. You can't claim no fake checkmate and then out-talk me, so you won't let me respond, Maestro. That's not being honest, sir.
I just checkmated.
No, how you? But you never let me respond. You over talking me, sir. You can't claim no fake checkmate, sir.
Tank versus Haney. Tank versus Haney is a guaranteed 1 million pay-per-view buy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Easily. It will outsell Ryan.
Let's go to my man Sly.
I would probably pick Devin in that one.
Yeah, let's go to my man Sly, and then we're gonna go to Philly, and then I'm gonna wrap it up here. But hit the like button, guys. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button as well. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well, so you know every time I go live. Because if it's not for an open panel, which is called Maestro Square Garden, you got to check me out for a punchlines where I go solo dolo, or check me out for mano a mano with my comrade Kenny T when we go live Sundays, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So Slide Tendencies, thank you so much with the super chat. He says, suddenly Tank can cross the street. Is Al giving him permission? What happened to all that rah-rah about starving Haney out? Checkmate, question mark. Goal post move, clown emoji, clown emoji.
Too much money in this fight right now.
Checkmate him. Now let me checkmate him. First of all, Tank is the street. Okay, everybody cross the street to fight Tank. That's how that's going to work, buddy. Okay. Secondly, give what happened to Rah starving hanging out. That's because Bill was saying all those lies. I want this fight. I always wanted this fight, just like Haney and Loma. I wanted that fight. So you know, Maestro claiming fake checkmates. You can't do that, buddy. You can't do that, buddy. But listen, I can't wait for Tank and Haney to fight at 135. If it's not for Undisputed, it ruins the luster of it, okay? Because I don't want him to fight a lesser opponent. I want him to fight Haney for Undisputed. I don't want Tank to fight Haney at 140 for no belt. I want him to fight for Undisputed at 135. That's what I want. That's the four kings, right? They got to clear out the four kings.
It's a monster fight right now, Tank versus Devin. It's a monster.
Who's got Devin and who's got Tank? Shits and giggles, go for it.
I got Tank, actually. I'm jumping on the Tank bandwagon right now.
You know what?
Tank by KO.
You know what? I'm going to wrap it up. And I'm going to look at it like this.
Look at Maestro. Claiming fake Tank base.
Checkmate. Just look forward to that Wally and Isaac Cruz rematches, man.
Raleigh, and first of all, Raleigh is trash. First of all, Raleigh is trash. Always said Raleigh was trash. Okay, Raleigh was just big and strong.
Raleigh was like, when it suited you. When it suited you, Rolly wasn't a 14-fight novice. When it suited you, he was a critical.
Wait. Hey, Maestro, you gotta stop putting false flags on me, my brother. Check my tweets. Wait, Maestro, check my tweets, my brother. I always call Raleigh.
Raleigh's a 140-pound champion right now. Come on, man.
Yo, but he was saying it on show too, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. He's gonna go grab that belt at 140 off Raleigh, man. That's what he's gonna do, man. He's about to get.
Checkmate's back. Checkmate, you there?
You with us, sir?
No, I would love to see when a Cruz rematch happen. I like Isaac Cruz. I expect Tank to KO him the next time because he'll have two hands instead of one. But I don't want to see a Raleigh rematch. Raleigh don't deserve to be a champion right now. Raleigh is not even top 10. He wasn't top 10 at 135, and he's not top 10 at 40. He loses to all the top fighters at 140. Gary Antoine Russell will annihilate him. So I'm not interested in Raleigh.
Okay, well, that's it for Rolly. I agree with you. You've come around to our side of the chessboard. You know. Buddy, checkmate. I'm looking at the chessboard here, and I've got your bishop, your rook, your knight, your queen, right? And all that's left is a few pawns, and you know, it's checkmate. So it is what it is.
Maestro, my buddy, my brother, you can't claim fake checkmates on me, brother. You got to actually catch me and take my words and say, you said this, and say, gotcha. You know what I mean?
But check me. Can I ask you a question?
And sure, Philly.
If he fights Wally for that 140 belt, would you come on here and say Tank took the easier fight just to get a belt?
I don't want to. That's too easy. I don't want to see him to fight Raleigh ever again. Okay.
You say if he took the fight.
I'm going to watch because I'm a Tank fan, and I'm going to be pissed, but I want him to knock him out again. But I don't want him to fight Raleigh. I want him to fight Haney. If he don't fight Haney, I want him to fight Loma. I want him to give Loma a golden parachute and knock him out. He's going to be the first fighter to knock Loma out and send him on a permanent vacation back to Ukraine. You know what I'm saying?
Philly, do you know what you just did? Philly, hold on, Philly. Do you know what you just did?
Oh God, Maestro, you can't claim it fake checkmates, my brother.
How many times you gonna play speed chess tonight, checkmate?
You can't do the fake checkmates, brother. They gotta mean something. Go ahead, Philly Irish. Go ahead, Philly Irish.
I need you to answer the question. Would you come on here and fucking say that he took your fight the title?
If he fights, I don't want him to go up to 140 until he cleans out the board at 135. Period. There's under no circumstances do I want him to go to 140. He has work to do at 135. He needs to stay there. I never wanted him to leave 130 until he got undisputed. So because of that, I need him to keep his eyes on the prize, take out Haney, Loma, and Shakur. Period. I want him to wipe the board clean at 135. So there's no question. So Maestro can come around because right now Maestro said Tank is the 4th best fighter at 135. Maestro says Tank is the 4th best fighter at 135. With that said, Maestro is going to be late to the train, but I will accept his apologies after Tank cleared the board. That's it. What you say, Philly?
I'm going to hold you to a checkmate. If he fights Rolly again, I'm going to hold you to it to come on.
What are you holding me to? I don't want to fight. If he fights, then what do you expect me to say?
Checkmate, I need to update my 135-pound rankings.
Oh, now he's 3. Now you're moving Tank to 3. Number 3. Look at you.
Let's see. I got Devin Haney, number 1. I've got this is a close one. I gotta go with Shakur, number 2, until he beats Haney. Then I'm gonna have to go Loma 3. Yeah, you're right. I do have Tank number 4. Sorry, I apologize.
Absolutely, because you have an anti-tank bias, but that's okay. That's okay. You know why I love your anti-tank bias. You know why I love your anti-tank bias, Maestro? Because he's going to convert you. That's why. Because at the end, when he cleared the board, he's going to convert you. And I'm gonna sit here with a smile on my face. Okay, welcome to the other side, my brother.
Let me correct myself. Tank Davis is the number 1 136-pound fighter in the world. You got it. Checkmate.
Yeah, he is the 136-pound fighter. Yes, he is. And
there you go. Can we agree on that? He's the best 136-pound fighter in the world.
No, I don't know what is time. Is Ryan the best 138 fighter? You know, Ryan's the one who had 3 catchweight fights versus the 135 fighters. Tank ain't never asked no catchweight fight.
There were 140 fights.
Tank, I sent you the video. No, you saw the video. We shouldn't have to relitigate this. You saw it.
Let's not relitigate this. Yeah, so checkmate, you know, it is what it is. We played speed chess a few times tonight. Everybody saw what happened. It's all good. It's all good. Right? I mean, yes or no? Huh?
Well, listen, we had a great fight. What'd you say?
No, I was saying we had a few rounds of speed chess, you know. You got checkmate. It's okay. I've got all your pieces on the side of the board right now. We all good. All right.
Yeah, you checkmated. You say you checkmate on things I never said though. You put them false jackets on me.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean?
You did say that the undisputed fight between Loma and Haney wasn't as significant as the fight with Ryan and
my tweet, sir. I would never say that. I never think Ryan was qualified for his accolades. Ryan was artificially anointed. So I didn't want Tank to fight Ryan. I wanted Tank to fight the others who would give him more of a test. As you guys could see, you guys the one who told me that Ryan would beat Tank.
So wrong on that one.
Yeah, I was wrong on that, but you know,
so wrong on that one.
That was
one of my biggest. That was one of my biggest L's of the century.
Well, it was an easy call for me. It was an easy call for me because I
just feel bad. I just feel bad that you bet the 1 through 6 and he got knocked out in the 7th. I just feel bad.
So let me show you my 7 through 10 slip, then, Joe. Let me show you my 7 through 10 slip.
I heard you photoshopped it. I heard you photoshopped
that. In retrospect, checkmate. I was wrong. I didn't realize how much the rehydration clause and the weight stipulations would have affected a guy who was totally unproven at the elite level. But you know what didn't happen to me when that happened?
Yeah, I checkmated a lot of people. And you know what? Tank made Ryan get on his knees and pray to his little baby Jesus. And he made him quit. He made a grown man quit.
All right, so listen, just to wrap things up, because we're nearing the end here, and I actually have gone a little bit over where I wanted to go. Look, guys, if you didn't score the fight using a rubric, using a scoring criteria, matter of fact, if you didn't score it using the boxing rules, the ABC rules, right? I don't really give a damn how you scored the fight. If you were drinking a beer, talking to people, sending out tweets, right, responding to people on Instagram, I don't care how you scored the fight, right? If you were listening to Andre Ward and Tim Bradley talking about fighters landing punches that they didn't really land in the fight, I don't really care how you scored the fight. At the end of the day, I saw a close fight. I rewatched it. I still saw a close fight. I had it 7-5 for Devin Haney. And I don't see a robbery here. I didn't see one in the arena. I didn't see it when I watched it on TV. I didn't see it when I rewatched it with the Sky commentary. I didn't see a robbery. And I'm sticking to what I said. So if you disagree, you disagree. Guess what? That's the beauty of having, freedom of thought, freedom of speech. Joe Habib.
I just want to let everyone know out there, if you've scored the fight for Haney, just feel secure within yourself that you're not a scumbag. And I'll end it on that.
And that you didn't want the white guy to lose.
Yep.
Checkmate. Can we just admit what happened tonight, and then just call it a day, or what are we doing here?
What happened, sir? In your own words, what happened?
You know exactly what happened.
Maestro, you can't claim checkmates on false jackets you put on me. You said this. No, I didn't. You know what I mean? You be checkmating a ghost, brother. But listen, I think it was a great fight. I've thoroughly entertained. I think boxing won. I hope the pay-per-view is a great success. I hope it did, over 300,000-400,000, so we can continue to get these big fights. And the people who think it was a robbery, rewatch it again and take your emotions out of it and just let the art speak for itself.
Very good. Checkmate. All right. On that note, thank you so much, Checkmate. Thank you so much, Joe Habib. I appreciate it. And let's keep the convos going. We got a lot more fights to look forward to. Still waiting to find out what happens to Tyson Fury. Still waiting to find out what happens with Wilder, with Joshua. Interesting stuff with NT Ruiz recently. Still waiting to find out what happens with Beterbiev in terms of his undisputed fight with Bivol, or what happens with Bivol, or what happens with Canelo. So lots of stuff to talk about, people. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you check out my brother, Joe Habib. He goes live, Ringside Reporter Live, Sundays, 6 p.m. Eastern with Eric Lorta, all right? And regularly on his own, or sometimes with me. So make sure you check out Ringside Reporter Live as well, guys. That's going to be it. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was not a Punchlines. It was an open forum, Maestro Square Garden. Always like opening the lines every now and again and speaking to my guys like Checkmate, Philly Drew. Obviously this time Joe Habib. Who else was here? Chicano Prophet, Ricky Ricardo, Brian was here. I know I'm missing some people, but thank you so much, guys. That's going to be it. Out of here.